I've been praying for a long time. So it's curious.
Oh, you're doing it up here.
Why don't I get? Why don't I get? Your courses, timers,
Ooh, I see a GitHub t-shirt at the back.
yes.
You should come up here. Because you're one of you did you come to the dev day last time?
I did it in South Africa actually.
Oh, okay. I see.
It's up for 500.
Oh, nice. Fatih, we should give out t-shirts next time if we find the
If I can find.
for South Africa. Great. It's your first time here, right? Oh, how did you hear about us?
LinkedIn.
Okay, nice. Cool. And which industry are you in?
I'm a social architect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's it.
Welcome aboard. We hope to see you more and maybe deliver a session next time.
Possibly, yes.
Great. I think we can get started. Fatih, are we live?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Azure Qatar community. It's great to see the community growing, and we have a lot of exciting topics lined up in the next few weeks, right before we end the year. And today's session is going to be we have Sarmad aboard again. If you guys remember, Sarmad discussed function apps last time, and today we're talking about another app service, Logic Apps. We're gonna dive deeper into what it is, if you have never used it, how you can use it. He's gonna show us some demos, and as always, keep it interactive, ask questions so that you can learn more. Sarmad is a solution architect here at Microsoft as well, covering AI and apps for a lot of our public sector and enterprise commercial customers. And also just an intro, I should have done this earlier, but because I see some new faces. For those of you who don't know the Azure Qatar community, this is a community for anyone to come, right? So we have your nephew, what was your name again?
Okay.
Yeah, we have young people here. We have people who've been in the industry for longer than I've been alive. And everyone here is welcome to exchange knowledge, learn all about Azure, Microsoft technologies, and learn from lessons in the field, so that we can grow and just have free pizza afterwards. Please, if you I keep saying this, if you have an idea for a talk, if you want to also contribute, reach out to us. We're happy to have a look at that, and then you can deliver a session as well. We have a couple of slots open towards the end of the year as well. And as always, we have questions that we ask you, so do listen carefully, and then you're gonna win. Do we have mugs this time, or is it
Still.
the SIM card thing, the travel SIM card? Yeah, I mean, winter break is coming. Yeah, so you could you get a chance to win that. So go ahead, Sarmad, and let's learn all about Logic Apps. Also, just a note, for those of you who are not on our LinkedIn or WhatsApp group, reach out to me or Fateh. We can help you get there. Okay.
So, hi everyone. As Padma mentioned, I'm now solution architect working in AI and apps domain. So, previously I talked about Azure Function Apps, and this is like a continued series that I'm going to be doing. And today I'm going to talk about Logic Apps. So, have you have you guys used Logic Apps before in Azure? Okay, some of you have. Okay. So Logic App basically is one of the most powerful and easy to use automation service that exists in Azure. Okay. It allows you to automate workflows visually that can, fulfill some kind of or implement some kind of a business process that you have. So think of it like, a business process can be, let's say, you have received an email, right? That email have an attachment, and you want to save that attachment somewhere, and then notify someone internally within your team. So this is like a process that you would normally, if you want to automate that, you would have to write a lot of code. You will have to do a lot of integrations. But with Logic Apps, you have a visual designer where you can simply do drop and drag and build this flow within minutes. So this is not just it. I mean, this is just a small example. You can build very complex scenarios and automate your internal processes using that. And this service, in conjunction with Azure Functions and other Azure service, becomes very powerful. So today we'll be exploring Logic Apps, how to work with them. I'll do some demos to show you guys how you can create them, create Logic Apps and different kind of workflows. And we'll also in the end look at a new feature in Logic Apps, which is in preview right now. It allows you to build agentic AI agents. So we'll look into that as well. So Logic App basically is a cloud-based service which allows you to automate your internal processes using a low-code environment, using a visual, a drag and drop kind of studio where you can, like build these flows. So think of it as a tool which allows you to connect your apps, data, and services. And you can, then because normally when you are working and building different workflows, you have a lot of, external systems, your internal databases from where you are going to get the data and work with it. So Logic App has seamless, integration. It allows you to have seamless integration with these services, meaning it has connectors out of the box for various kind of services and SaaS applications which you can use to connect and work with your data. It's no code, low code environment. It has more than, as of now, 13,000 connectors. Over here, I've mentioned 1,000, but now it's more than 13,000 plus connectors available for you out of the box, and you can use them. So I've talked about like what or why Logic App is used. So I'm now going to talk about some of the components in the Logic App for you guys to understand, and then you can start working with Logic Apps and so on. So Logic Apps are event based. Last time about functions, I also talked about triggers. So Logic App also is gets executed based on a certain trigger, based on an event. So these triggers can be HTTP based triggers. They can be time based triggers. They can be triggers like some file getting uploaded to a storage or something like that. So the flow that you're going to have in your Logic App, the workflow, that gets the execution of that workflow starts when the trigger gets activated. Uh, and trigger is part of the workflow, okay? Uh, and then you have actions. So the first thing in a Logic App is always a trigger, and then you have a sequence of actions, and actions are performing some kind of processing or some kind of an activity within that flow. For example, I gave an example of an email coming and then you extracting an attachment from that email. So when the email arrives is a trigger because the Logic App would be listening to your Office 365 or your email when an email arrives, and then it will have like actions such as like extract the attachment, save it into a database, and so on. So there is like you can have like a series of actions, and each action represents some certain kind of activity within that flow.
Sarmad,
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm gonna act like I don't know anything
Yeah.
about cats. So last time we had a session about Power Automate, and it sounds like very similar to that. So like, what is the difference between Logic Apps and Power Automate? Because
There's not much difference.
Mhm.
Power Automate is also used to automate, workflows by just that is the major difference is that it is a part of Office 365, apps, And over here, this is a Azure service, which allows you to do that. The benefits here are that you can utilize Logic Apps if you want to connect to other Azure services. You can deploy it on your own network. You can, have dedicated compute for it. So it depends upon the scenario that you have. But whatever you like have in Power Automate, the same connector connections and the same approach you have here in the Logic Apps as well.
So basically, I can control more things with Logic Apps because it's deployed in
Yeah,
an environment. It's
more
more of a PaaS experience than a SaaS experience.
you have more control over it.
And they're both
Very-
tools I can use to orchestrate events.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes. I'm not a Power Automate expert, but I've used this like uh, previously, so it's similar to what you have in Logic Apps.
My understanding is Power Automate runs on the desktop, right?
No, you can run it on the cloud as well. It's just think of Power Automate as like mentioned, it's like more, it's the audience is also different. Like business, like the citizens, digital citizens, they would use Power Automate and so on. But yeah, and developers, people who are more hands-on, they have access to the Azure portal and all that. They use Azure Logic Apps. So, yeah, go ahead.
Is if you take Power Automate, generally you're looking at it from a business user perspective. So one of the big things you want to understand there is that Power Automate is a little bit more user centric, as in the user is the center of Power Automate. So when I'm dealing with things, it's from that user's perspective. So that identity is persistent to the Power Automate environment. Whereby when you go into Logic App environment, it's generally a little bit more disconnected. Yes, your Logic App can run as an identity, but that identity is more of a system identity, not a user identity, right? So therefore, your processes there are going to be a lot more sort of centralized to a SaaS platform or some kind of process that is less user-orientated in a sense, okay? Generally speaking. It's not to say I can't perform tasks as I can extract emails out of my inbox there, but it's then going to be only for me. It's, which is really what Logic Apps is about. Logic Apps should be something more centralized that is less user-aware and more system-aware. Does that kind of open it up a little bit more?
Thank you for your input. Yeah.
What's your name again?
Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, so then we have connectors. So connectors allow you to connect to other services. For example, we talked about Office, Outlook. So you will have to use a connector to connect it. It will have the authentication and all of this in the you will have like the whole authentication part into the connector, and that's how you connect to other services. For example, if you want to connect to a SaaS system like SAP or Biz Apps, so you will use connectors to do that. Or if it's a SQL server, you will use the connections to connect to it and provide the credentials for it. There are several ways you can connect to it, and that's like part of the connectors. And then Azure Logic Apps provide you detailed, monitoring of your workflow runs. So let's say like if your workflow gets executed for the first time, so you will have the details of that workflow, like what was the input, output that took place in that workflow, okay, and all of these things. So we'll look more into these details uh, in the demo. But these are like the main, uh, uh, components of a Logic App. So triggers can be of many types. Mainly, there are two types of trigger in Logic App. The first one is polling triggers. Okay, so these triggers are which basically keeps listening to another service for an event to happen. For example, if a file is uploaded to a storage account in Azure, let's say, so and you have the trigger related to that, so it will keep on listening to the storage account for that event to happen. The other type are event-based, such as an HTTP request coming to Logic App. So an external system basically triggers an event which allows execution of the triggers. And there are, this is just like a few of the triggers on the screen, but there are many triggers available for you to kind of, integrate your workflows with. So in this screen, you can see like there are, uh, these are the actions in our workflow. So you can see like we have these rectangles, which each rectangle represents an action. And each action is for a particular, representing a particular, task. For example, we have the first action when a record is updated in Dynamics, okay? So this is a trigger. And after that action, the next action is to get that record and it's getting, transformed into an XML or something like that. And then it just, follows the next action under it. And so on, like the whole execution of these actions in this flow takes place. And you can see like we can also have conditional statements as well as actions. So this gives you more control how you want to like, have your workflow, build your work in that. So I talked about connectors. So there are a large number of connectors available for you. There are mainly uh, two types of connectors, built-in connectors and Azure managed connectors. So the built-in connectors basically are the connectors which run natively uh, in Logic App execution environment. And these connectors are mainly used to connect to services which are in your environment. For example, if you want to connect to your database, you can use the built-in connectors to connect to your database. But if you want to connect to an external system, a SaaS system, okay, a SaaS service, so you will have to use Azure managed connectors for that, because Azure will manage all the API and auth part for that service for you. Uh, yeah. So you can see like there are this shows like several different uh, SaaS softwares and Azure services that you have connectors for, and you can connect to them and create your work. Then on top of it, you can also create custom connectors. This option you can use when you have some kind of internal APIs that you want to connect to and you don't have a managed or built-in connector. So you can go for a custom connector. You will define your connector. You will find the authentication for it. What you will create this whole custom connector in Azure and then reference it in Azure Logic App, and this is how you can connect to your private system. And if you want to connect to on-premises data sources, then you can deploy your on-premises data gateway. That will allow you to connect to your services which are on-prem. So in Logic App, there are two types of Logic App: consumption and dedicated. So in consumption, yeah.
So does it support durable functions as well, or just the normal functions?
What do you mean by durable functions?
For example, if function is expecting a user input.
Yeah.
So will the Logic App support it to wait for the user input to come and to run?
Yeah.
Then
Yes. So Logic App, the execution, can wait for up to 365 days if you're using a standard Logic App. And for the consumption one, that is also like I'm not sure how much time, but for the standard one, you have this much duration. So your flow, let's say, it sends some kind of data to your durable function, right? And it has to wait for the response. So during that time, the Logic App flow will pause and will keep on waiting for the response to come back. And as soon as the response is back, then it will start the execution where it was. So you can build stateful workflows as well. And this is what I was talking about in dedicated plans. You can build, stateful logic apps, which can, help you with this more. Yeah.
It follows a tree structure. So
Yeah.
how would it resume from that particular node to execute the function once again? Because, for example, if I'm connecting it to, let's say, a WhatsApp webhook, and I've sent in a message and my response is dependent on the user response. The next response is dependent on the user response. And I've defined a function for it. So based on the tree structure, it will have to have the webhook and then scroll down the tree to come to that one.
So basically, you're going to call your function, right? And your function is going to respond back to logic app.
Yes.
So during that time, that after that call, the logic app flow is going to pause there until it receives the response. After, once it receives a response, then it will start the execution.
Response has to come from the webhook once again.
It's recursive, right? Like you keep on receiving the messages,
Hmm.
and based on that, you again call that function. So it's kind of a recursive function that is based on the messages received. So basically, you have one workflow, and then the same workflow will be carried on based on the inputs from the messages of WhatsApp. So rather than having infinite amount of these, will it consume those messages recursively and then proceed out of that?
I'm not getting the use case, to be honest. Like,
So let me explain.
Yeah.
So basically, my requirement is that I'm proposing a plan to a user through a WhatsApp channel. And in a plan proposition, I need to ask the user that what is your, for example, consumption pattern. So till the time the user gives me the consumption pattern, I cannot go into the node of plan recommendation. So, and all my communication is via the WhatsApp webhook. So what I currently do is that I have to have the navigation through the full node of the tree, maintain the states and Cosmos DB, and then execute once again from the full tree. And it adds a lot of lag. If somehow I can resume the next flow from the same node, it would basically start the next round of response from that point onwards.
but how you're gonna do that in logic app? This is what I'm trying to understand.
Maybe I can discuss it with you with later. I can show you what we've built and to get the input on that.
Okay, all right, we can discuss this. Yeah, sure. Okay, so now the workflow is basically you can think of it as a container where your triggers, actions, connectors all are inside this, and this is trigger for. And in the diagram that you see, this is a presentation of a workflow. So you can see like we have a trigger, and then conditions, and then like so each of the rectangle here is representing an action which is getting executed in the flow. And then you have actions to send email. You have like conditions here as well implemented. So Azure Logic, as I said, like you have to trigger the workflow based on an event. For example, these events can be HTTP event or listening to an external service such as storage account or something. And then your flow starts getting executed. And in your flow, you have multiple actions, and you can have like conditional statements as well. You can uh, uh, things like execute code as well, but that is only supported in your standard logic apps. You can have inline Java, JavaScript, and Python code. And then the output can be further sent or to other services or can be connected. So benefits of Logic App, it's we've talked about low code automation service for you. It has like 1,300 plus pre-built connectors for you, and it has a serverless uh, model, hosting model, and it's fully managed by Azure. So if you go for the consumption hosting option, so that is managed by Azure, but it is multi-tenant. So the infrastructure underneath is shared across the tenant, okay? And but if you want dedicated compute, then you're going to go for uh, the dedicated plan, app service plan or app service environment uh, on which you can host your logic. And then, I mean, like with the connectors, you can integrate it with almost all of the Azure services and external system, external SaaS applications, and so on. And based on the hosting option, your pricing will also change. For example, for consumption, you only pay for the times your flow is going to execute it. And in the dedicated, I mean, it's going to be based on the plan that you're going to use. So this is like the Logic App architecture overview. You can see like the series of steps. So trigger initiates the workflow. If you have any condition specified, if not, the trigger will initiate the workflow and workflow executes the action in series. And action uses connectors and integrate with services, and then you can use the output from each task or from the workflow, and you can pass it to other workflows, or you can extend this functionality and build more on top of it. So I just briefly talked about the runtime options. So in consumption, these are like a few differences between consumption and standard logic apps. So consumption can only run on Azure because it's you can say it's multi-tenant. It's managed by Azure, the infrastructure on which it's running. The standard one, it can run on Azure on your local environment, on Docker and Kubernetes as well. You can run it. So consumption is multi-tenant, standard is single tenant. So for consumption, if you want to connect to your on-prem data sources, you will have to deploy a data gateway in order to reach on-prem. For standard, it supports private endpoint VNet integration, so you can seamlessly connect from your Logic app to your services on network. So the billing is pay as you go. Pay for each time your workflow gets executed in consumption, and in standard, it's you're paying for the plan that you're using, and also the storage. So the standard Logic app, it uses storage account to store the state, and that is why, and you have to bring your own storage when you're creating a Logic app in standard hosting option. Um, in consumption, Azure manages that, and most of the time, the state of the workflow is only in memory, and it doesn't persist in case something goes wrong with the workflow. So for connectors in consumption, you can only use the connectors that are available to you, built-in connectors. Mostly, I talked about the built-in connectors. And in standard, you have the option to use built-in connectors. With that, you can write custom connectors as well. And but you can't do that in consumption. So from DevOps perspective, consumption logic apps can be deployed using ARM configurations. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware of ARM templates. So ARM templates are like the uh, infrastructure as in configuration that you can define and deploy in Azure. So when you use consumption type of logic app, you will define the configuration of your workflow as ARM configuration. And while in standard, you can define the infrastructure of logic app as infrastructure as code tool, Terraform, or anything. And the basically the definition of your workflow becomes an application package. So you can deploy it as an application package on top of it. So from scaling and performance perspective, you can see like consumptions model is, you can have like 300,000 executions per 5 minutes. It's good when you have like, very fast, you need very fast execution, concurrent executions, uh, and a single instance can run as long as 365 days. So even for consumption, it can run to 365 days. And you can have almost 20 billion executions per day. So in standard, you have stateless workflow for low latency. Uh, it's normally used for high throughput workloads. Uh, it has built-in connectors, and it can scale between 210 VS1 to VS3 ACUs. So basically, these are the SKUs that are available for logic apps under app service plans. Uh, so you can have stateful workflows and stateless workflows. So I mentioned this, that stateful workflows, everything that is happening inside the workflow, the input and the output, uh, that is going to be passed between the actions. Everything gets stored into the storage account. And in case, your workflow fails or something happens, it can resume, pick up the state from the storage account, and it can resume the execution. Uh, Whereas in stateless workflow, states are only stored in memory. And if something goes wrong to the logic app, it goes down or something, or the workflow which is running is interrupted, so the state is lost and your workflow fails. So other than that, I mean, in stateful workflow, you have your whole run history maintained. Like you can see like and troubleshoot each run. But in stateless, the run history is not maintained, and so it's difficult to debug or troubleshoot your workflows, or if you want to see what happened.
So
Yeah.
the run history is available as logs in the historical runs, and anyone who has the access is able to see what the conversation was about. Is there any way to secure the run history?
Run history is something that is gonna be available to someone who has access on the service, right? So you can do that by creating a RBAC role if there is a built-in RBAC role to do that. But other than that, if someone has access to the Logic app workflows and service, I mean, obviously, run history is going to be part of that. And that person can go, he can check the run history, he can even see the inputs that have been, provided and what happened in the whole flow.
For example, I want to isolate the access of the DevOps team to have a view of the run history because it contains actual end user conversations. So, is there a way to do it?
I think you can only do that by RBAC rules. So there are built-in rules which allow you to segregate these duties, and based on that, you can see or like work with Logic Apps. So, but I'm not aware of any particular role which can do that. Either we can go for building a custom role, uh, but other than that, there is nothing out of the box which you can do simply to get this done. Okay, so you can also like this is like the life cycle of Logic Apps. You can develop Logic Apps using Azure Portal, using the Visual Designer, or you can develop them on VS Code using VS Code as well. Uh, but for consumption, you cannot do that. Only for standard Logic Apps, you can use VS Code and have the local development for it. To deploy, you can use GitHub Action pipelines, Azure pipelines, and other CI/CD pipelines with support to deploy your workflows onto Logic Apps. Logic Apps have full integration with application insights, so you can see, dive deeper into what happened in the execution and get insights. And also the logs are also stored in log analytics. The full integration for log analytics is also built in for you.
Deploy it as a put your app in
Yeah.
the
In the service, you will like,
service.
yeah,
cloud-based service.
Yeah.
Using the Git action.
yeah, GitHub Actions, exactly. So as I mentioned, like if it's a standard Logic app, so you can deploy it as an application package on top of your Logic app service.
Yeah.
But if it's a consumption Logic app, then the only way is to write the ARM configuration, and the workflow would be part of that configuration. But you won't be able to deploy it as a application package, right? Yeah. Okay, so and then you can like manage it from Azure Portal, CLI and APIs. You have that option to manage your Logic apps. And from a governance perspective, but we were talking about, you have RBAC rules, built-in rules. You can explore them, and if like any rule fits that criteria to like save the chat, run history, or you know uh, isolate it from other rules, then you can implement that and you will achieve it. And then you can have like from a governance perspective, you can apply Azure policies and so on. So if you're doing local development, you can develop using any operating system. It does not matter. You have source control integration as well. You can deploy your configurations, your application as a whole folder structure into source control, and then you can deploy it from there. Like you can set up full end-to-end CI/CD pipelines for this process to deploy your workflows. Okay. I will now just go to the portal and start showing you there. So first, how you can create a Logic app in Azure. So you can search for Azure Logic Okay. You can search for Azure Logic Apps. So over here, you can click on create, and then it will give you the plans that you can use. So I'm going to go for the demo purpose on the consumption plan. If I select it, it will ask me for the resource group, the logic app name, the region where you want to deploy. And for a consumption multi-tenant logic app, these are the main things that you need to provide. Once you do that, you can hit next and review and create. So it will provision the logic app resource for you. But I'm not going to do that because I already have the logic app create. Yeah. Yeah. But I think in Qatar Central, we have capacity related issues. So, but the service is available in Qatar Central. So let me do it. I'll just deploy. I will just give it a name and hit next. And that's pretty much it. You create it and it will create the resource for you. If you're trying to create a standard logic app, then you can go for the workflow service plan or an app service environment or the hybrid option. If you go for the workflow service plan, it will ask you for some more parameters that you need to pass. For example, the resource group, and then you will provide it a name, and then the region, and then the app service plan that you want to use. So in this case, we have option to use VS1, VS2, and VS3. You can see the differences in WS1. We have one vCPU and 3.5 GB RAM, and similarly in the larger tier, we have 4 vCPUs and 4. Depending upon your requirement, you can use it. And additionally, you will have to bring your own storage. So you will provide a storage account. So Logic App can manage the state. From the networking option, you have the option to have virtual network integration. Then Logic App will be on your network, and you can access resources and connect to services on your network. And the next step, monitoring, it allows you to integrate with log analytics and application insights. So for the authentication, Azure Logic Apps underneath user storage account, these application insight resource for monitoring purpose. So for that, you have the option to authenticate using managed identity or secrets. So the default is secrets, but you can also use managed identity.
So if we choose secrets over there, where these secrets will be kept? And do we need to also have a Azure key vault to keep those secrets?
So these secrets, they become environment variables of the Logic App, because this Logic App is now running on app service environment, right? So just like app services, if you select secrets here, they become an environment variable there, and it has the name and the secret.
Then we can, if we want, we can also take this environment variables and move it to the Azure key vault and
reference them from there.
Same idea.
Yes.
Since it's running on the application service.
Yes, app service plan. So once you do all these configuration, this is like it gives you more option because this is a standard workflow. So you have these network options and authentication options and so on that you can use.
This one supports also VNet integration, right?
Yeah, only this. If you are running Logic App on a dedicated plan, then you will have VNet integration. Otherwise, you cannot because.
Maybe a lot. What is VNet integration?
VNet integration is when you take an Azure service and deploy it on your, uh, you know, the network which is managed by you. So when you have an Azure network, okay, you can deploy and connect services to that network. So those services, they get an IP from that network, right? So they become on your network. Uh, so once they are on your network, and then you can, access other services which are on your network. Because otherwise, there is no network path if you deploy these services in a multi-tenant environment. So they are actually deployed on a network, but that is managed by Azure network. It's not customer-owned network. So there is no network connectivity. They cannot reach to you to customer network or your network if you have. So typically, what happens is in Azure when we uh, create an Azure environment, okay, we go for you bring your own network, you create a VNet, you create services in it, you deploy services in it. Further, that network now it is running. That network is actually in Azure data center, right? But then you further, in order to connect your on-prem data centers with that network, you use something like express route or site-to-site VPN tunnels, which gives that connectivity from your on-prem network to your Azure networks. Now, when you deploy these services with VNet integration, so they become part of your VNet, which is in Azure. So that is how they get an IP, a private IP, from that network, and using that IP, they can communicate with other services which are on your network. Okay, so once you create your logic app, you can see like I have already 4 logic apps here. Uh, yeah,
Also, there's another option called hybrids.
yeah.
What is this hybrid means?
Hybrid, Fateh, is when you want to deploy it on a, you can say, a hybrid environment, such as like on-prem, you have a Kubernetes cluster, okay, and you want to deploy your logic app on that cluster and run it as a container. So in that case, you can use those options, but those options are not straightforward. You will have to have like more network related aspects to it that you will have to look into and deploy. So those options are used for that. And then the ASC, which is an app service environment, that is like an isolated app services environment which provides dedicated compute to run your application. So you can run app services, logic app functions in that environment.
If we use the hybrid one, does it mean that we are offloading all these logic apps to the on-prem cluster, or we can use both of them at the same time? Both in AKS on-prem and not AKS, the Kubernetes on the on-prem and the Azure one. Is that possible? Multiple instances running on 2 different places.
No, it's not like multiple instances. It's just like the hybrid. If you have a hybrid environment, your on-prem environment is connected with, and you want to deploy it there, so then you can do that. Otherwise, like multiple instances of same logic app will not, uh, I mean, like do any
It's no use case for us.
use here. Okay, so this is like one of the logic apps. Once it gets created, it will have this kind of interface here, and so I'll go to one of the logic app and just quickly show you how you can create a workflow. This is a consumption logic app. So you can see like it gives you an option in the development tools to go to logic app designer. Okay. So if you click on that, it will open the designer for you. Now you can see like here, this is how the designer basically looks like. And I already have a flow created here. And in this flow, I have basically the first action that you see here. This is a trigger, which is based on HTTP request. So when an HTTP request is sent to this workflow, this logic app, it will start executing this flow. Now, another thing about the consumption and standard logic app is that consumption can only have a single workflow, while in standard, you can create multiple workflows. So if you have a consumption, you can only have one workflow and you cannot like create more workflows in it. So, okay, before I show you this, I'm gonna just go and show you how to create a workflow from scratch. Let's say, okay, a basic one. So I go to the workflows and I can add another workflow.
That's how you can have multiple workflows in the start.
Yeah, so now this is the, yes.
Same user interface in the consumption.
Yeah, so now this is the standard one. So you can see like I already have two workflows created here, and I'm creating a third one. And in this, yeah,
You can also use the VS Code to develop workflows, right? But
Yeah.
it's VS standard. Do we need to install an extension on the VS Code to have this designer on the VS Code?
yes. So there is an extension called Logic App Standard. So you will install that extension, and then you will get the full functionality of the designer within the VS Code for it. So if you look at in this, it gives me 4 options. 2 of them are in preview. I will also demo one of these with the conversational agents. But for this case, I'm just going to go for a stateless workflow. Give it a name. And this gives me now the UI where I can design the workflow, right? So first thing, it's asking us to add a trigger. If I click on that, it shows me, like all the different type of triggers that I have. So you can see like we have built-in, shared, custom. So for this case, I can use uh, a built-in trigger for request. And I will say like, this is one of the most common trigger used. So I'm going to use that. When an HTTP request is received, I can add another action. So you can see. So now on this trigger, you can see like it isn't saved yet. But once I save this workflow, it will generate a unique URL endpoint on which I can send the request, and this particular workflow will get executed.
One more question. Let's say if our app service has a custom domain and you are using this app service, so this URL will also be part of this custom domain. So I'm asking because I don't know. I never tried this.
So this is going to be a specific endpoint for this workflow.
But will that be using the same domain or still using this unique some?
So when you go for this standard workflow, which I went for, the app service plan that is being used, you cannot run your normal app services on it. If you want to run a mixture of functions, logic app, then you can go for an AAC.
Right. But in that case, even in the AAC, the app server, the web application will have a separate domain, and this one will have a separate domain.
Yeah, because in app service environment, you have a load balancer in front of it.
Yes.
So using the load balancer, you can then further route, do the path-based routing based on.
Just asking if it will be easy to have a custom domain which will be easy to remember, right? For customer user experience point of view. Because the unique URL it will generate will be very, I believe, very unique, not
Yeah.
easy to,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
but this is like uh, an HTTP request to an endpoint, right?
We don't need to keep remember it, right? It's just
Yeah,
one-time
it will be,
integration.
yes.
I can just add to that. One thing you want to consider though is when you're accessing anything over HTTP, even your app services, do you expose them publicly directly on that endpoint?
It depends on the scenario, right?
Well, technically speaking, you didn't want to, right? Because what security exists between the person accessing that URL and that app service. So under 99% of your use cases, you're going to put that app service behind some kind of firewall. So typically it's going to be Azure's firewall, right? So we'd go with front door as a good starting point, or an application gateway. More than likely, front door is going to give you a better first level experience, which means I'm going to have a single domain on the front door, and I can then route traffic based on custom rules to any of the services that sit behind them. So it makes that custom domain thing a lot simpler to manage, and you have an entry point where I can now change services behind it without impacting the domain that I'm accessing. So I would definitely approach something like that in that regards. And then yes, you can have a friendly domain that sits in front of your logic apps.
Yeah.
To ask, access this app if it was deployed, anyone can access, right? If they have the IP.
So if you have deployed it publicly,
Yeah,
you have exposed your logic app publicly, then this endpoint URL will be, you will be able to access it publicly.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so if you want someone to access it publicly, there's also a weakness in it, I believe, right? Which is security. So my question is, if you are using workflows to automate workflow automations in this, so how would you ensure security in this?
Yeah. So
Especially when you see data integrated between different services, movement, data moving. So is there like a security feature to like encryption or?
yeah. So for authentication and authorization, you can trigger or run this flow by having integration with your Active Directory. Okay. So you can implement OAuth, okay, protocol, using which you will be able to even publicly, if you want to invoke this endpoint, you can have implement, OAuth authentication, okay, and then you have built-in easy auth as well, as part of Logic App that you can enable. So you have a lot of different, authentication ways to authenticate to Logic App in order to execute this. And the other thing is that it's not necessarily that you have to expose it publicly. It depends upon requirement. If you deploy it on a VNet, then you can disable the public endpoint and only access it internally. But even for in order to access it internally, you will still have this authentication mechanism, implemented here, because based on the zero trust implementation, you cannot like access or invoke any of this. This is just for demo purposes, just showcasing you how this works. But in every Azure service, you have built-in authentication and authorization that you can use. And most of the time, the best practice is to use Azure AD-based authentication to
Use what?
Azure Active Directory. That's an identity and management service that you use here. Yeah. So basically, you can have token-based authentication. You will issue a token, and then you will authenticate against the service. So we have a trigger. Now you can see like there's a plus button. If I simply click on this plus button, it gives me an option to add an action. Now there are a number of actions that I can use. Like you can see, if I maybe want to connect to a SQL server, I can use this action. I will like create a connection with the SQL server. When I do that, if I do it, just to show you guys, so you can see like it gives me different kind of operations within that action that I can use to work with the data. Let's say I can get rows. Now here it will ask me for the connection. So you have the authentication type. Either you can go for SQL Server authentication, provide username, password, or a service principal if you're using Active Directory for authentication. And you can see like there are several options for you to create this connection. And yeah. Yep. So just an example. I don't have any SQL Server ready as of now. I'm gonna just simply delete this, and I'm just gonna just add another action saying response. So when a request is received, just send me a response. That's it. And if I save it now, so basically what this workflow is gonna do, if I send a request, it will send me a response, right? So after saving it, you can see like I have a unique endpoint generated for it. And I can just simply use the portal to test it out. I'll just run it. So it says the trigger ran successfully. And if I go to run history now, on the left-hand side, you will see
the stateless workflow, right? This is a stateless workflow, right?
yeah, this is stateless workflow.
So it's supposed to have a run history as well?
Yeah, so it does not show a run history, right?
Trigger is.
But he's right, actually, because it is not going to show a run history in consumption. But this is a stateless workflow in standard logic app and not in consumption. So it is supposed to show me the history, but I'm not sure. Okay, so I just wanted you guys to see like how it looks like, how the portal looks like. I'm gonna go back to the demo that I have prepared for you guys, which has something and will show some kind of an execution. Uh, so in this flow, you can see like basically this is something like a workflow where we submit invoices, okay, and those invoices have to get approved by the manager, okay. So this use case basically represents that. Mainly, a user is going to send a request to this endpoint with the amount that he wants the reimbursement for, and if that amount is below 200, it will get auto approved. If not, the approval is going to go to the manager, and manager has to approve it, and then it will get approved. So if you can see, like it has a trigger when HTTP request is received, and then a schema defined. So it is expecting a schema, a payload with the request with all of these details, employee name, department, amount, description, and so on. So when a request needs to be sent, so it has to have a payload with it with all of these details. And then I'm parsing the body, which is coming from which is coming to the trigger. You can see like I have a parse JSON action, and the content that I want to parse here is body. So you can have dynamic, you can dynamically define functions as well and create small functions as well to kind of work with the data that is there. So in this case, for example, if I click on this button, so let me first remove it. So for content, if I click on this button, it dynamically generates, uh, you know, the elements in the body which came to with the request. And in that, you can see like what I need is we have employee name, department, amount, and then the body. So I'm going to take the body out of the request. And then I'm initializing a variable. And then let me just open this. So basically what you see here is that after getting this data, I'm further, I have different kind of actions and then a condition. In this condition, I'm checking the value which is coming in the payload. If it's more than 200 or if it's less than 200, if you look at the condition here, so I'm checking after parsing the body that if the amount is greater than 200, if it is true, then it sends an approval email. Over here, what you see is it doesn't matter, just sending a response telling that the your request has been sent to the manager for approval to notify. And then you can see like there is an office action, which is basically sending an approval request to the manager. And based on that, once it's approved, it will just terminate. And like if the condition, if it's less than 200, it is just going to take the false route, and it will just generate a response saying that it has been auto approved. So like this, I mean, like you can build like multiple different kind of workflows and very complex workflows. You can add conditional statements, build logic for your workflow, and yeah.
Does it support RAG workflow like AI integration or embedding?
I'm sorry, what?
Does it support RAG integration?
RAG integration. So when you so when you say RAG integration, what exactly are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to basically create your RAG based knowledge base, or what? Or you're trying to do the retrieval? Or you're trying to do the retrieval? I mean, like, are you trying to retrieval? Yeah, so we have now this support. As of now, it's in preview. Okay, so it might just malfunction, I would say, at time because it's in preview. It has been just recently launched. So you can build conversational agent and also multi-agent workflows with Logic Apps, and you can perform RAG, you can perform everything almost.
Very awesome.
So there are many use cases in which Logic Apps are being used to create embeddings and update your vector data store. So in that case, what happens is like I've seen scenarios where
This is used. Like there are third party, or is it Azure integrated with vector tools?
so it depends. If you want to store your vectors in a third party database, you will have to see like if the connection is there. If there is an out of box connection, you can connect to your external data source, okay, and store your vectors there. If not, you can create a custom connector and then do that. But for Azure services, if you have, you're using AI search or Cosmos DB or SQL, you can connect to them and do that.
Service.
So in those cases, you can have a workflow like, for example, you store or you upload your files to a storage account. From that, you will have a trigger which will look for, files getting uploaded. Based on that, it will.
Also, another the trigger is actually with is there any other type of trigger? Like, for example, there is email trigger, other type of trigger.
Yeah.
There is.
So in triggers, you have triggers like when an email arrives in your inbox. Yeah. So you have there are a lot of triggers. I mean, like I cannot show you, but what you can do is after this, you can go and explore the documentation and the types of trigger. If you are looking for a specific trigger for a SaaS application or Office 365 application, you can look and search for it. You'll see it. There are more than 1,300 plus connectors, as I said. So you can just I mean, like
So,
yeah.
second condition on there after your email. So what's happening right now? Like it's listening to SMTP and then waiting for a response from.
So basically, when the true condition gets executed, okay, so it sends an approval email to the manager, which is in case me, okay, the manager. And if in this condition, what's happening is if I approve, okay, so manager will have to approve or reject, right? The expense. Yes. So in this case, in this condition, I'm checking if the selected option, the manager selected approve, then basically execute the rest of the flow. Yeah.
So how will this listen to the response?
What is
This
the
is-
content of the email? It's the content of the approval email. Is it a link?
Yeah, like how you approve it.
Yeah, so it will send me an email in my inbox, and I will go and I will have a full-fledged email, which I will show you once I run this. So I will click on approve, and then it is going to basically create it will send back the response to this, and then it will get executed.
Sarmad, do we have the option to connect an MCP client in case of the agentic AI workflows?
So you guys are asking me the questions which are right now our product team is working on. Okay, so we have now the features for creating conversational agent or autonomous agents, and also Logic App team is working to make Logic App act as MCP servers as well, because all you are seeing here are we are creating APIs which are doing some kind of certain processing. So they can be exposed as MCP server, and there is a feature which is right now uh, they're available in Logic App to expose these workflows as APIs for MCP server. Uh, but it's, as I said, like it's in preview. So there is like limited functionality to it as of now. So for example, like as of now, the agentic, workflows, if you want to build, you can only directly access OpenAI, right? You don't have the option to access OpenAI through API management. Let's say, okay? And because that is the default scenario now, you cannot access Open API directly. You have to have you're exposing OpenAI through it. So team are working on such features to have end-to-end enterprise level solution based on Logic App. And
it still doesn't have the agentic features. Like, you make custom agents and for custom tasks.
no, so you can make custom agents for custom tasks. But just like what I'm saying is like the functionality that you need for production environments, that is like further being developed behind the scenes. I will show you a demo as well on the agents part. So let me just show you guys this. So if I need to copy the payload. This is like my payload. Gonna run this with payload. So here the employee name is Sarah Khan, finance 350, team dinner, and this is needs to be done. So I get a 200 status code, okay, and the response body says approval pending for by your manager. So because the amount that I sent was 350, so it went to the true condition, and
Option.
debugging option in design.
This workflow.
In Designer, if you're using Azure Portal, you can debug using run history. Okay. But if you are using VS Code, then you can set even breakpoints between each task, okay, and actions and do the debugging. So that is why Visual Studio Code support is there for standard workflows. So you guys can see I just received an email, okay, and this email now says that, request for input expense from Sarah Khan. So if I approve it now, so it is going to send back the response, and by now, like, this whole flow should get executed. If I go to the run history here, so in this, you can see, like, I believe this is the workflow. Yeah, 1926. And now over here, you can see, like, all the details of this flow, all the input and outputs that were flowing through this workflow. You parse the JSON, open the conditions. So you can see, like, it went to true, and then so you can dive deeper into each of these actions, and you can see, like, what was the option selected. So like this, each time this workflow runs, you will have a run history for you to
So that's the run history, like this non-run RAM. Is it gonna you have to go to run history to see it, or can you see it from your editor as well? So what's like
no. Once
to run history?
yeah, because workflow editor is for you to edit your workflow, create more like build on top of your existing workflow, add more actions, these kind of things. But if once that gets executed, you won't see the execution there. That will be saved with a unique ID in the run history. So you can see, like, over here in the run history, I have like this workflow ran like 4 or 5 times today before as well. And you can see the duration for which it ran and so on.
As well in this, like if we have something recursive, so would we need to extend the same workflow, or do we have some repeat actions as well here?
Yeah, so you can have conditional statements. You have loops that you can use to achieve something like that. So if you want to do something recursive, you can utilize loops in your flow and then set a condition. Until that condition is not met, it will just keep on running in that loop and so on. Yes.
Same or multiple threads.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Can you speak?
Processes, right? You only can do Like one, we had multiple threads.
No, you can have like parallel executions as well within the workflow. Yeah. Okay, so this was like a just a simple demo, and now I'll just
The app is running, or for example, if the flow is running and it is awaiting approval input. So for that whole time, it is in process and it is charged.
No. So it will be charged if it's a consumption model, so it will be charged based on single execution, right? Yeah, yeah. But if it's an app service plan, so the charge is the costing, it doesn't work like that because you're paying for the dedicated plan and it's monthly. Even if your workflow is not executing, you're paying for the app service plan. The workflow will be paused and it will wait for the response, okay, from the email or if there is another connector that you're using. So once it gets the response back, it will start execution. And once it's complete, it's that will be charged based on that execution. Yeah.
The particular example you've given us, like it is very interesting. Like at the very beginning, there is an HTTP listener, okay, and after a few conditions, there is an email object which is waiting for an approval. So can we say you have two listeners?
No, it's not like the first is the trigger, right? So this trigger is an event trigger, okay? So it is wait, it gets this trigger basically starts the flow when a request is received, right? Down the line, when you have your Outlook task, which is basically waiting for an approval. Now, there are some tasks in Logic App which are both, which are event-based as well, and also polling based as well. Okay, and that is one of them is Outlook. So Outlook, some tasks in Outlook, okay, they use both of these uh, mechanisms to like work. So
Sorry.
no worries.
Can you just
So this is like for Outlook, it's something like a webhook. You understand? It's like a webhook. So it's like waiting for a response back. As soon as it gets a response, it will.
can you just go back to your email and show me the URL, the accept button URL?
Okay, not this one. Just give me a second. So you can see like this is the URL.
It's the sender in this case. Who is the email address that sends this email?
Yeah. So the email address. I mean, this is not going to be the best use case that I'm showing you, but the email address which is being used to send the email is my email. Okay, and then I'm also just showing you guys that the user who is sending that is also sending the email to my. So over here, if you see, but normally, I mean, obviously, you will use different emails based on. You can see like this is the send approval email task. So over here, I'm sending it to this email. But over here, if I show you the connection, so when I create this task, I create a connection. So in the connection, I have to like provide the user details, which is this task is going to use. So those user details are also the same. It's my account, the same account, and then the connection I've made. And then it's just sending an email to itself in this case.
How many execution can you run in a day? This is standard plan.
A standard plan is not limited to how many executions you can run. It depends upon the underlying infrastructure, what it can support, what we saw, right? So if I open the presentation here, yeah.
For example, the trigger, if there is multiple listener, for example, you add a trigger that if you upload a file, then it triggers. So someone uploaded, like, constantly, 2, 3 people are uploading. How this handles that?
It will handle it like concurrently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
If you if the if you
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like, for example, you have a web page.
Yeah.
It's taking files. So when you upload a file, it triggers. So if someone is, like, for example, there are 4 testers uploading files.
Yeah.
So how is it going to distribute it?
It is going to run 4 times.
4 times per. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
It
limit?
will run 4 times.
What's the limit to the parallel executions?
There is no limited. Like in standard, it depends upon the plan. Okay, and all of your executions will happen simultaneously. Okay, at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. So, but in consumption, again, you will have simultaneous executions, but there is a limit over there. Okay. So we saw like in 5 minutes, there were like, a number of concurrent executions that can take place.
How efficient is it? Like, for example, there are other automation tools which have their own processing, which slows down the task. How about this one?
I mean, like, this is, what do you mean by efficient?
By efficient, I mean, like, their own processing power makes the workflow run slowly, execution run slowly. I mean, like, how is it? Is it like, uses more processor or something like that?
No, it depends upon like what you have in your workflow. If it's like CPU intensive workflow, okay. Yeah. So if it's a CPU intensive workflow and you have a standard workflow plan, so obviously each execution that is going to happen, it is going to start consuming the CPU, and eventually you will have a saturation of the CPU. But in this case, if you know your workflow is CPU intensive, then you have to go for a bigger SKU size for it, right? And then you can also further have scaling in your app service plan. You can add more instances.
One thing. What is the pricing for different type of standard plan?
Pricing, uh, I can show you the pricing as well. Just give me some time. Uh, I'll open the pricing page and you can get the information from there. But as I said, like for consumption, you pay per execution, okay? And for standard, it's going to be, it depends upon the size that you're using and what's the price for that. So if you go for, Azure Logic App pricing, it will take you to the pricing page, and over here you can see, like, if you're using a workflow service plan, so you're paying this much price, almost 1,300. Let me change to USDs. 143 USD per month. Okay. And so on. So you can explore this pricing page depending upon your SKU that you're using, and then it'll be priced based on that. Okay, guys, I think we are almost, like we have way less time left. I'm just gonna go to the conversational agent demo. Okay. So in order to create these features are in preview as of now, but you guys can explore them. You have the option to create a conversational agent and an autonomous agent. In autonomous agent, obviously there is no human factor. Whatever you do, the agent will do or run the flow. Okay, it will take decisions based on its own reasoning. And conversational, I mean, like you have the option to communicate with the agent. And I have like uh, let me show you the weather agent. So when you create an agent in Azure Logic App, basically it creates something which is called agent loop. And agent loop is basically a loop in which the agent, uh, checks the user input, the context, and what kind of tools it has, and all of that, and then based on that, takes decision and executes the flow further down. So when you do that, I mean, like it is going to by default create an agent uh, loop for you. Let me just show you guys this before. So for this type of workflow, first thing is the trigger. So this trigger is basically when a new chat session starts. So whenever a chat session is going to be start either from an external app where you have embedded this as a chatbot, or if you use this, it will initiate a session with this agent. Okay. And second thing, you can see like by default, it has created an agent loop. And for this, if you click on the agent, uh, it will ask you for a connection with the OpenAI service. Okay. So if I click on add new, I already have a connection, so it is picking it up by default.
So can you use custom models like there is a open router or
So as of now, Logic App agents only support Azure OpenAI.
only
models.
Azure?
Yeah, OpenAI models. Okay, mainly. But these features are being added, and soon you will have more options as well. So yeah, I mean, like you have to create an Azure OpenAI service. I already have it over here. Okay, so I'm just like kind of referring. I have a GPT 4.1 model deployed, and my connection is to this. I'm using authentication, based on URL and keybase. Once you have that, you will create a new. It will create a connection with this OpenAI service, and then I mean, um, to see it working, you can simply click on chat over here, and it will bring you to a chat interface uh, where you can start testing. But this is what I'm saying. This is in preview as of now. So uh, I've also faced like several similar kind of issues while creating the demo. But I will just go into the other one, which is actually, and it is supposed to work. So it is the same thing. We have the agent loop, and in the agent loop, once you create the connection, it will ask you for a few more parameters. So the deployment model, which is I just showed you, is GPT 4.1, and then the instruction that you want to add for the agent. This is like the system, system message that you can send with the prompt. And this is very important over here, like how you define the system instruction. That is how this agent is going to use whatever is in the workflow. For example, uh, you can see like I have created a tool as well here, which is get current Doha weather. Okay, yeah.
Azure tool, or you can use other tools with third-party tools.
You can use any tool. You just have to like build it. If your third party tool is like, let's say,
Any like web scraping tools or something like that.
Yeah. So you can use, I mean, you can call APIs, external APIs, okay? And you can create the tool if it has like multiple steps, okay? If it's calling APIs, etc., etc. And then you can give that whole this flow as a tool to this agent. Now, in this case, if you see, I have provided the instruction that you are a weather agent who gives information about the weather. Okay, simple. And nothing else over here is important. I mean, like I'm just defining the token count, model name, etc. These are my agent configurations. Okay. The second thing is that I have option over here. You can see like add an action. Uh, so like this, you can add additional tools to it in this case. But over here, if you see like this tool, this is basically, I have named it as get current weather, Doha weather, okay? And the description is that you gets the current weather in Doha. So otherwise it will not do it, okay? Yes.
The main agenda was for Logic Apps was primarily workflow automation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe trigger-based orchestration or maybe API integration, certain level. And we already have bot service in Azure bot service, right? So what's the point of integrating an agent over here? Like, how can I use, like, it's not a workflow anymore. The idea is totally different now.
Yeah.
What's the point of introducing agent connector altogether in Logic Apps?
So basically this, what you see here, you're seeing a conversational chatbot. Okay. So you can build conversational chatbot using Logic Apps. Now Logic App is a low code, no code platform, which is allowing you to build tools and all of this functionality just by using drag and drop tools. And all of this can be, I mean, like what you see in front of you, this took me maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes to create. Okay. Now, just looking at this over here, my first tool is, I've named it as get current weather. Okay. And underneath, I have just simply added another task, which is for MSN weather. Okay. Website. I'm just calling their API to fetch the weather. Okay. So I've just provided my agent this as a tool. Okay. So like this, maybe you want to build more tools. So what do you think? Like it will take you, there is no coding required. Okay. You just simply have to create a connection with your external systems, internal systems, on-prem systems, and add them as tools, and simply just you have a working conversational chatbot. And other than that, the other thing is, there is an option for autonomous agents. Now, with that, what you can do is, if your workflow is like, where we see we took human approval, right? So you can build autonomous workflows where agent can take decision based on you, based on set certain conditions. So you can do those kind of things as well by using autonomous agents. But I get your point. There are multiple.
But it's deviating from the theme. Like just imagine for a moment the role of a product designer. You're designing logic apps. The theme was to develop workflow map automation. And we have deviated altogether to build an agent within that workflow. Does it align?
The agent will help you to the stuff. For example,
Exactly.
You have tools that calendar and stuff like that. You have to manually create nodes. So you just add tools, and then the AI, when the AI agent gets a mail or something, it just reads the context and he makes it for you.
No, that
Yeah,
it's a good option.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying is like if I wanted to give that option,
so you mean to tell us that the people should do more work?
This is
what I'm trying to say is like we already have bot service, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we would have improved that bot service to make it no code rather than changing the dynamics of an existing workflow automation tool.
but you see, bot service doesn't have this much flexibility to connect with other external system and services. This is,
What service I can trigger logic apps, right?
yeah, you can trigger logic apps.
From like I would have created a workflow, I would have created a agent in bot service, and I would have merged them. Right now, it's not a workflow anymore. What you are presenting right now, sorry,
It's code and bot service.
so improve that area.
For example, let me give you an example. I understand like bot service is something that you will use as a separate service to have this human bot interaction, right? But now this is available for you within Logic Apps. Okay. Let's say you have some kind of, uh, uh, an incident management solution, right? Where you have a problem, you need to open an IT support ticket or something, right? So with this kind of implementation, your conversational agent up live, it has all the tools. It has, let's say, access to ServiceNow to create the incident log, do everything. Okay. So you just simply have to like tell the agent in the system prompt that, if this is the scenario, this is your job, and let's say if an incident is reported, this is how you have to handle it. So it can, then invoke all of these tools, do everything for you, and create an incident, log it, and so you don't need the human factor in it. So that's these days every workflow, the AI is there. Okay, AI is being put into every workflow.
Yeah, it's just surprising that is that this one doesn't have it. Like there are other automation tools which already have AI integration and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But now you have it here. And
But you said that it's still in development.
no, obviously, I mean, like it will be GA very soon.
HTTP request to OpenAI endpoint is there already. So you can call the OpenAI service from Logic Apps to write down.
For example, you don't want to use OpenAI, you want to use other LLM.
Call any REST endpoint.
So, but for agent loop, you cannot. For agent loop, as of now, you only have support for GPT models. You cannot use other models, but that will also be available GA soon.
There's a subsequent, there is another, like from the Foundry, there is another tool as well. Within the agent, you can add a logic app flow.
Yeah.
The AI agent can have a logic app tool built into the agent.
Now that is like you exposing Logic App as an MCP tool to the agent. This is what I was talking about. There is more work being done because the agent loop that you see here is built on top of your AI Foundry agents. So how you're gonna expose? You can expose Logic App as a standalone API as an MCP tool. Okay, but soon enough you will see this being done through API Center.
Just a kind story. The last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. Pizza arrived before it's getting cold.
Okay.
Ask your questions, 3 questions, and wrap it up, and then you will take the rest of the questions offline. Otherwise, the pizza will be cold.
I hope this works. Okay, yeah, so it worked. Right, so I asked it like, what is the weather in Doha? So it just gave me the answer. And if I just quickly go, I just want to wrap this up to the run history for this. So it will show you all the sessions, and you can see like the current session is still running. So I can go back and because it's maintaining the session. And furthermore, you can see like, the details. What was the agent log shows you like the whole communication between the agent and user. And then if you click on the yeah, over here. So this agent basically ran 3 tasks. So you can get the information of each task, and you will see like, what was the prompt that was sent, what was the system message, and you can, dive deeper into all of this. Okay, so this is it. You guys don't have any questions, so I can just ask you questions.